It's just something to do that's fun with my friends. Like I'm sure NFL is to a lot of people.
Oh, of course. Jordan, are we on? Yeah. Uh, I like going to basketball games only if I'm close to the floor.
Sure.
Uh, Hockey games are actually very fun. Flyers atmosphere is great.
I love
Here's
hockey games.
They're great. Baseball, come on, man. Like the baseball's not fun to go to. I don't care what anybody says. And here's the hot take, Matt. Watching football from the couch is so much better than me watching football at the state. Like, I would much rather go to the store, grab a case of beer, invite some buddies over and drink instead of going to a like, I think football is so much like exponentially better from a TV than it is from the actual venue itself. And a lot of people would call me crazy for that. But I throw Red Zone or any other game on that one. I'll throw the Eagles on this one, and I'm in heaven, man. I don't need to go anywhere.
I think that's becoming less of a hot take over time. A lot of my friends have changed their tune on this. I agree with you. I think people are now realizing that football, first of all, unless you're right on the field, it's hard to see what's going on. It's in a time of year in a lot of places around the country where weather's a huge issue. It's on Sunday, so most people have to take off work on Monday. I mean, there's a lot of logistical problems with football games that are just remedied by watching Red Zone, not to mention that erases all of the downtime and time in football. And if you haven't noticed, I know you have, recently, as they increase ad time and the length of these games, I mean, it is becoming a little bit tricky to watch if you're not at home with something else to do or just Red Zone.
Absolutely. Another thing to consider too is you just feel like you're getting robbed when you go to these games. Absolute robbery. Like if you want to buy the tickets on the secondary market and then you want to go and get food and drinks and stuff, you walk out of there, your backside hurts, Matt. But no, look, either way, for someone like you or me that we're playing DFS every Sunday, we're betting every Sunday. I like to be able to just watch all of the games to begin with. So it's the way
I
it
agree
is.
with you, and you can see what's going on.
You can see everything that's going on. Plus, you know how much better instant replay is and all of that stuff, being able to go back. Like, I just want to be there. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show. Broncos Saints at the Superdome, Thursday night football. Woo! Okay. You should absolutely embrace the hideous nature of this game and accept the fact that sometimes this is just what Thursday night football is supposed to be. Okay. This is what we deserve. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not saying we've been bad. I'm saying this is sometimes Thursday night football the past 2 weeks has been shocking, Matt. Bucks and Falcons had 100 total points. And then you had Seahawks and Niners, which was also a pretty entertaining game with a ton of scoring. 37-point total, 36.5 in some spots here. No Rashid Shaheed, no Chris Olave, no Patrick Surtain, by the way, but I'm not sure that even matters. No Derek Carr, Taysom Hill, both of them doubtful. The offensive starting center and backup center for the Saints is out. The right guard is out. This is the definition of a greasy Thursday night football game, and I am here for it.
Absolutely. This is the best time for these games. If you park this on a noon slate on Sunday, you're not watching it. Probably somewhere else on Red Zone, just watching a different game in general. But now you're going to watch Thursday night football anyway. Let's be real. Whether it's the Saints, Broncos, Chiefs, Bills, whoever it is, you're watching Thursday night football. But now you turn a game you might not be excited for, and we have DFS to play. So boom, now we have to be interested in this game. We have to figure out who the Saints are going to bring up from the practice squad. And you're going to be interested because we're playing DFS. So who cares who it is? It's just a different wrinkle and a new problem for you to solve.
Couldn't have said it better myself. There's a spot I want to start. And believe it or not, it is not this ragtag group of misfits in the wide receiver room for New Orleans. It is the backfield for Denver, because I think this is where the game could be decided from a DFS standpoint, Matt. Hot takes galore from me this morning. Sean Payton, after last week's game, Now, this could just be nonsense coach speak, or it might not be. Said that he wants to get a better look at some of these younger guys, Vele and Troy Franklin, but he also mentioned Audric Estime. And Javonte Williams is coming off of a game where he fumbled and lost it, and also had a costly drop late in that one. I think they would have lost anyway, but he was never really Sean Payton's guy. And he may be less of Sean Payton's guy after last week. I'm wondering, is he falling out of favor here? This isn't to say that Jaleel McLaughlin has been any more efficient than he has, Javonte Williams, but Audric Estime only played a couple of snaps last week. Does this guy come in and get more opportunities? He's $400 at the flex position against the Saints team that is allowing 5.3 yards per attempt to running backs this year, 169 rushing yards per game over the last 4 weeks. I think the backfield for Denver in what should be a conservatively played game, because they have a good defense and New Orleans is gutted on offense. I think this is kind of the crux of every conversation we need to have, and we have to start with it as well.
Yeah, Denver's playing for nothing right now. They're just kind of evaluating talent, and they're walking into a rare games.
Wait, what do you mean? Aren't they 3-4?
Laffy, yes, that's their record, but like, look ahead of the current record. What do you expect this team? I hate when people are like, oh, like who, like the Chargers, like they're 3-2 or whatever. And then they're like, oh yeah, Chargers have hope. It's like, buddy, you know, the Chargers at best are making a wild card. Denver at the very, very best 99th percentile outcome is losing in the wild card round. I don't care what their record is. Let's be real. They're playing for nothing.
They're 3-3. But yeah, I just wanted to fire you up.
Well, you succeeded. Good job.
You never refer to me by my name. So when you did, I thought, oh, I got him. I got him going now.
That's always so tilting though. They're like, yeah, so-and-so they're 3-3 now. Like they're playing for something. It's like, buddy, look at this team. You are smarter than this. Not you specifically, but it's like, how can you be so stupid to think this team actually has a chance?
I will say this much. We got to give them a little bit of credit. You're going to agree with me on this too. Their defense under Vance Joseph has been so good and so opportunistic. Like that defense has been fantastic. They've got a white cornerback that's out there, one of the best cover corners in the league right now. That's exciting stuff.
It's kind of history at this point.
Yeah. But, you know, seriously, I will say I agree with you. But also, when you do have a defense that good, it's the type of team that they stick around in every game they play, right? And we've kind of seen that all year. Even in week 1 against Seattle in Bo Nix's first start, he was god-awful. Ended up being, what, a 6-point, what was it, like 26-20 at the end of that game? They have managed, because of the defense, not because of Bo Nix or Cortland Sutton or that awful run game, they have managed to keep games competitive. But to what you're saying, you go out there and you face a quality offense that can put points on the board, they don't really stand a chance. But I don't think they're like giving up on the season as you would a Carolina Panthers team or a team that just is totally in the gutter after 6 weeks.
Well, they got to figure some things out. They're not giving up on the season like in that sense, but I mean, they're like kind of a frisky team with a rookie quarterback and a ton of rookie skill players and a regime that didn't draft a lot of the players on their team. So they're trying to figure things out, man. And it kind of makes sense from Sean Payton's perspective when you have guys like Javonte. Like, what does he care if Javonte stinks or he wants to get a look at the guy he drafted in Estime instead?
Right.
So yeah, there's some things to figure out there, especially with Javonte being as bad as he's been. It's a really tough situation to figure out anytime you have these uncertain spots. And really, this is a game full of it at both skill position players. But it is one of the rare times you see Denver favored in a game, especially on the road against a defense I don't really respect right now. So gambling on the backfield situation makes a lot of sense. I don't have a strong feel for what they're going to do. So I plan on just taking shots really across the board with every guy. The only thing I can, say with certainty is I don't believe Jaleel McLaughlin's going to be the lead back. Just because of his size, he's likely to work in a committee really regardless whether it's Estime or Javonte coming in and spelling him.
100% agree, but I also think McLaughlin is very much in play today.
I agree as well. And he could lead the backfield, but if that's the case, it's probably like 10
10
touches,
carry.
Javonte 9, and
Yep.
then, yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. Like leading the backfield would be maybe a potential 3-man committee. You're right. Where McLaughlin sees like 9 or 10 attempts. Right.
Yeah. And someone else has a significant amount as well.
You know what's funny about these two teams, though? They're actually both first and second, Broncos and Saints, respectively, in red zone efficiency on defense this year. So like, the Saints defense has not been good. No team has allowed more yards per game. But outside of last week, they have done a good job of limiting teams in the red zone. I look at it like this. If $400 Audric Estime, I don't need to get a lot of them, but I'm probably boosting him at least a little bit, or like where I'm at right now, with how that backfield is in flux, with how Javonte Williams had 2 costly mistakes last game and has never really been Sean Payton's guy. Estimate to me at $400 is absolutely in play today, and I want to have more than like 1 or 2 lineups with him. I think you might just see him get more work because last week, sure, he barely played. I think he had 1 carry for 15 yards. He was only on the field for 2 snaps, but it was also his first game back off the IR. So even if you only work him in a little bit today, how often are we getting $400 guys that are in a backfield or in a situation, a position that is in flux right now with a lot of, ambiguity, and you can say, hey, he's as cheap as they possibly get?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. And I think they're probably going to start taking a look at him, especially just considering how bad the players in front of him have been. That's basically a Javonte shade. But I mean, they drafted this guy. This is their pick. And it's been an injury that's limited him, nothing else. So I'm definitely in on that. I'll be taking some shots with Estimate as well, based on the same rationale.
You mean McLaughlin?
What? Sorry, did I say Javonte?
Well, no, I was saying Estimate at 400 is the guy.
Yeah,
You
that's
said
who I meant. If I said one of the other backs, it was a mistake. I meant Estimate.
No, you didn't. I thought you were, the way you said it, I thought you were talking about a second running back for Denver as well, which actually is perfect for the segue here because McLaughlin and Williams, I'm getting a lot of. I think what I'd rather do is just kind of smooth out my exposure a little bit to where I don't want to have like 40% Audric Estime, but I want to have exposure to all 3 of these Denver running backs. That's what I'm getting at because I don't know where it's going to come from. What if this just is one of those ugly games where it's played in between the 20s and yardage is obviously touchdowns in a spot like this are going to be super valuable because we're not projecting there to be many of them. But, if one of these guys breaks off a few big plays, that could put you in the money. And I have a lot of McLaughlin right now. I have a lot of Javonte Williams. I want to smooth it out a little bit though, and get to a decent amount of Audric Estime. But I think I'm going to have all 3 of these running backs for Denver.
Yeah, I agree. Basically 100%. I don't plan on coming super overexposed to any of them. It's just a risk management thing. You could be walking into like 2 fantasy points depending on the whimsical nature of Denver's offense. And they've done this, not at running back yet, but their receiver room has been a complete mess and they're just rotating things week in, week out. You could very well see them take the same approach at running back, especially with the guy they drafted and the guy ahead of him underachieving.
Eric Ronas asked, would you play all 3 in a lineup? Yeah, I'm not doing that, but I'm very, very, very comfortable playing 2 Denver running backs in as many lineups as I get. I'll make 0 adjustments to change that.
Yeah, I agree. They're not expensive.
But
And you
3
don't really, his salary doesn't really matter. I don't think it's a tight slate.
3 seems like a stretch though.
I agree.
If you had to prioritize these guys based on salary and ownership right now, how would you do it?
McLaughlin 1, Estimate 2, Javonte 3.
Really?
I think so. I don't feel good about that. I know
I
I said
actually-
it quickly. I don't feel good.
I actually agree with you. I just didn't think you were going to say that. I didn't think you'd go Javonte 3. So then do you agree that there seems to be some feeling that he might be about to see a declining workload and they start splitting this up more now that Estime's back for a second week?
Yeah, I guess I should maybe rephrase and not have Javonte 3 and probably have estimate 3 just because they haven't done it yet.
Right.
I will throw some darts at that being the case, but they still haven't done it. So we need to see it on paper, I think, for me to actually come in with that level of confidence. So I'll put Javonte 2. I don't feel good about it. I will put estimate 3. And to your point earlier, I'm going to definitely be spreading ownership to these guys in my own personal portfolio, not trying to make any stands. Javonte's been horrifying.
Terribly bad.
He's not even averaging 9 fantasy points per game.
And then the problem is when you add on the costly mistakes like drops and fumbles to the fact that he's already been inefficient, that just compounds the problem.
I guess the only real wrinkle is who else are you playing? Or are you just leaving a ton of salary on the table? Because there's no studs on New Orleans outside of Kamara. I guess Rattler's kind of priced like a stud, even though he's not. And then, like, what studs are you getting to on Denver? You got Bo Nix and Sutton. So eventually, if you're playing multiple lineups, you just run out of guys to use. So, like, if you're not playing just one lineup, you're probably going to end up with a decent amount of Javonte by default. Unless you're willing to leave like $5K on the table in a large majority of your lineups, which maybe you are. I'm not sure on this yet. This is a really weird slate. But you don't have any studs to pay up for outside of the 4 I mentioned.
I know. It's crazy. AMR LLC says, y'all say that about Javonte and watch he has a monster game. These
Funny, this is every single slate. I mean,
exactly.
Like, say that about anyone you want. Like,
correct.
Terrible. Say something meaningful if you're going to say something. That's just nonsense.
We can only go off the information that we have. Like, yeah, Javonte could break a 60-yard run. And it's like, see.
No shit. And also, Bo Nix might get hurt and Zach Wilson might come in and throw 3 touchdowns. Like, say something that makes sense.
We can only go off the information that we have. That's it.
It's nonsense.
Like, we'd be doing you guys a serious misservice or disservice if we didn't even mention the fact that Javonte has been struggling and that Javonte has been having these problems. Like, it's not helpful otherwise. Like, if you want us to just, as Ben said, mega mind genius shit and be like, nope, Javonte, despite everything, all of the headwinds, he's going to have a huge, fine. And you know what? It might happen, but it's still meaningless.
I mean, do you want us to evaluate real scenarios and try to give you actionable like advice in the lineups? Like, Javonte's been terrible. Something that might happen today is they might give the rookie they drafted with the current regime more work. That's a possibility that you probably should know about. Saying dumb things like, oh, could this random player have 2 touchdowns? Is that really helpful to you? Like, probably not.
Of course not. By the way, Fired Up Matt is the best version of Matt Gajewski. Atone for your sins this morning. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet for our boy Matt. By the way,
he could have 2 touchdowns too. He has a good workload. He just is awful this year.
Right. That's all we're saying. And guess what? I'm still going to have a good amount of Javonte Williams.
Yeah, you don't have a choice unless you leave 1,000.
Exactly.
Like, you don't have. There's no one good on the slate to play.
It's an indictment on Javonte Williams, but it's more so us saying, don't sleep on the other guys, right?
Anyway, like, let me put it to you this way. When I ran the Sims unencumbered, and obviously things will change throughout the day, I got 60% of Javonte in the flex. I'm probably going to bring that down to like 45.
Me too.
So that's the most actionable thing I can tell you about Javonte in my own personal approach to this.
Kareem Pringle said it would be hilarious if he goes crazy now. That's what I'm saying, though. It wouldn't, because it's football and these things can happen. I would never go back and change anything I'm saying unless we just had a terribly wrong read on something, and then it's on us. But it wouldn't. It's just you know what? I may be in a position come the 4th quarter where I'm hoping Javonte Williams goes off. Like, that's very possible, because the alternatives at the top, there's not a lot there. There is not a lot there. Anyway,
I actually love Javonte as a player too. He was awesome at North Carolina. This dude looked like an absolute monster when he first entered the league. Then he had that devastating knee injury. And I'm not sure if that's what's limiting him. Maybe it's a confidence issue because it's a lot of mental mistakes he's making, or if he's just not in the right fit for him now that Sean Payton comes in, and Sean Payton has a lot of weird intricacies. He likes certain guys, which is evidenced basically by him playing UDFAs over highly drafted players at almost every position. So maybe it's just not a good fit for him under Sean Payton anymore. Who knows what the answer is? But the bottom line is he has not been getting it done, regardless of matchup.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. But you're going to have to get to some Javonte today.
I don't have a choice.
Exactly. I just want to get over the field on Estime and McLaughlin. That is where I'm coming at. All right. So how about the pass catchers for Denver? And then we'll get to the Saints because that's ugly. And by the way, guys, leave a comment down below. Where are you going with these? Like, how are you approaching this slate? Hit us up. Say hi. I read and respond to as many comments as I can every week. We love when you guys interact, not just in chat, but some of you have to watch after the fact, doing other stuff. By the way, I was wondering this. How many of you guys are, and let me know in chat, how many of you guys are at work right now and just finding ways to watch this show? Because those are our people, man.
That's a great question.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great question. I would love to know that answer.
Yeah. AMR, by the way, we're not shitting on you. We're shitting on the notion of that type of comment. I still appreciate you watching. But yeah, let us know who. Okay, there we go. Justin at work, sit in the office by myself. William definitely at work. Oh, we definitely are getting ready for work. There we go. Mike Diaz, I'm at work. Jordan with the poll. There you go. Are you listening, watching while at work? I answered yes. Technically I am. Trell, I'm definitely at work with my AirPods in. Connor's at work. Yeah, everybody's at work, man.
I love to see it, man.
It's so great. We'll get to the Saints in a second, but I want to talk about the pass catchers for the Broncos, because this isn't exactly, that's all. Riggs does lawn care, getting the trailer hits. Yeah, that's perfect, dude. And if you guys ever want to listen in podcast form, like if you don't have YouTube Premium, you want to just close your phone out, you can listen. This comes up in podcast form right after we're live. So you can always do that as well. But with Sean Payton talking about getting more guys work, like Vele, Troy Franklin is a guy that they were kind of high on coming into the year, but he didn't have a good camp. We've seen him get a little work. Cortland Sutton, don't get me started on Cortland Sutton. I still have faith, but it's been ugly. And then the tight end room, let's mix them in as well. They've been lifeless this year too, Matt. So yeah, it's a practice squad wide receiver room for New Orleans. It's not exactly a ton better for Denver.
It's like 2% better, but they do have Cortland Sutton. And I honestly was surprised how little I got of him in the early run of Sims. He's definitely a guy I'll be boosting at the expense of, I guess I might not even need to boost him because, when you bring Javonte down, your salary has to go somewhere. So maybe he'll just naturally come up. That's something I plan to do throughout the day, is just play around with what some of these boosts will do to my lineups and capping Javonte. But I mean, he's the only guy I think you feel secure about in the wide receiver room. Yes, they're going to give other players more looks, younger players, but we don't know how talented they are. We don't know if they can command targets, and we also don't know how much they're going to play. With Troy Franklin and Vele both seeing an uptick in snaps and routes last week, you still had 11 routes for little Jordan Humphrey. You still had 16 for Marvin Mims, who I'm surprised doesn't fit this kind of young player you want to look at. But anyway, it's not clear. So I think that just leads more credence to paying up for Cortland Sutton and then sprinkling or spraying across the board with some of these guys that are cheaper. That's how I see it right now. Sutton is pretty clearly, in my opinion, the priority. Outside of that, I probably would rank them Vele 2, Franklin 3, just because Vele's already been up for more games than Franklin this year, but splitting hairs, and I don't feel confident one way or the other between the two.
I don't have a lot of confidence either, but Terrence Miller said he's at work driving the forklift watching. That sounds safe.
That's bold.
That's safe. Yeah. With Denver, Sutton's obviously going to get a lot of work. It's crazy with this Devon Vele character though, because you remember in week 1, the amount of work he saw, like he was actually very involved.
That's the thing. Like, I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know how to predict it moving forward because there's no clear pattern.
So was he on the IR and just got activated?
I don't think so.
Or was he just, no, I think he was just inactive for 4 or 5.
I'm like 90% sure he just didn't play.
Yeah, my fault. So I was reading some of these hilarious comments in chat. And then he plays last week and gets 62% of snaps. Okay. So, and I know you touched on some of this, but with Josh Reynolds on the IR, he was playing, let's say, like what, around 50% of snaps the last 3 weeks before he got hurt.
Yes.
So let's do this then. Instead of trying to figure out target share today, why don't we try and figure out just routes run and how often they're going to be on the field? So Cortland Sutton's number one. Like he's just there. He's a fixture in this offense. We know that. 80, 85, 90% of snaps every week. Once you get past that, and Marvin Mims, by the way, just Sean Payton does not seem to be a big Marvin Mims guy right now, which saddens me. But 65% of snaps for Franklin last week, 62% from Devon Vele, and 35% from Lil Jordan Humphrey. I think I'm putting it like this. I think I'm going Cortland Sutton number one. And then with Reynolds out, their veteran out, it's going to be Troy Franklin and Vele as 2 and 2A. That's the way I think it is if you want to get these guys involved.
I agree with you. They already moved that direction in the last game. So it's not even just coach speak. They already did this. And I mean, like everything I said about Denver at the top, you can agree and disagree with it. I just read the Sean Payton quote. He basically said the same exact thing. Like, we're a young team. We need to figure things out.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like he has Super Bowl aspirations this year, which is probably smart. Do you see Lil Jordan Humphrey, Marvin Mims? Yeah. But honestly, you might have just seen their ceiling at 35% of the snaps for Humphrey and 31 for Mims, especially if you do want to get a longer look at Franklin and Vele. The only concern I really have is this is just yo-yoing snaps all over the field, like week after week after week. So could you see like a dumb play, maybe not even a fumble, like a missed block or something? One of these guys comes off the field. I don't feel confident in anyone, but I would rank them the exact same way as you.
Marvin Mims ran 14 routes last week. Lil Jordan Humphrey ran 9. Franklin 28, Sutton 37, Vele 29. Okay. Gives you a decent idea of what we're looking at. Last week without Josh Reynolds as well. Here is the one thing that I think we need to talk about, Matt. Okay. That's why you guys tune in. We try and dig as deep as possible. I know they were playing from behind. And Bo Nix attempted 6 deep passes. All 3 of Marvin Mims' attempts, of which he caught 0 of them, all 3 of them were 20-plus yards downfield.
He's a burner. And we know this. He's an explosive player. He's actually really good with the ball in his hands. He's their main kickoff, punt returner. He does a ton on special teams. To be honest with you, I've never truly understood why his role isn't better, but it's just not. So, I mean, that's exactly it with Marvin Mims. You're banking on a big play hitting, a kick return, and that's basically it. It's multiple regimes now that haven't shown any faith in this guy. So at 1.2K, he's certainly worth a dart throw. He's in like the estimate territory, but I'm not going to be able to use him in a large portfolio lineups. We just haven't seen a ceiling in any rendition of the Broncos this year. His season high in snaps actually was last week at 31, and now they're talking about taking him off the field more.
I know. But I will say this much. Right now, I have 12.5%. We're projecting him around 3% ownership in the flex. I'm okay with that. I'm very okay with that. If they decide, try and get him the ball twice downfield. If it fails, it fails. With Mims, you're probably getting a 0, or you might have a rogue 50-yard touchdown. The 0 is far more likely, but he's getting like 3-4% ownership on an ugly slate where so many of these other guys might be terrible as well.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I will probably end up like in the 8% range. I'm not sure on this. Right now I have 5. Maybe I'll just leave that. I think the real question is, which I don't have a strong feel for right now, is how much do you trust like a rotational Denver receiver versus Franklin and Vele, but then what the Saints are going to put out there too. So where on the target totem pole value wise does he actually fall when you start adding like 3 extra receivers? Didn't even talk about tight ends. So he might be like 8th or 9th in terms of just plays among the value that I want to get to. So I don't know. He's not going to be a big stand, but he doesn't need to be. like 1% owned. Play a couple Marvin Mims if you have the heart for it, but he's probably going to be pretty far down there for me.
For sure. Because it's really going to be you're going to watch the game if you have Mims, and you're going to see one or two of them potentially go to him, and you're just going to hold, we'll have the collective breath hold, and then it'll fall incomplete, and then he'll come off the field. But if it doesn't fall incomplete, there might be something there. But yes, again, if he's getting, what do we have him projected at right now? Ownership?
I don't know, not high. He was in 5% of the pools when I was building.
We have him at
Sims.
3.6% at the flex. 3.6%.
That seems about right. He should not be more than that.
Agreed. But he's also the third most highly leveraged guy this week because he has no ownership at all. That doesn't mean you play a lot of him. It just means if you got a little sprinkle, trace amounts, as Josh likes to say, of Marvin Mims, that's okay with me. Absolutely. And I hope to be there.
We're basically positively leveraged on every one of these dusty pass catchers for Denver. But they're all so cheap. I think that's why.
The more I look at this slate, and the more like you're going to be like, oh man, you're just riding the fence, Luffy. The more I want to say that I'm perfectly happy not taking a ton of stands and just getting over the field on Estime, but not having it define my day. Getting over the field on somebody like Mims, not having it define my day. And then there's just, there aren't a lot. Like, what are the big stands you could take? I suppose one of them could be in the Denver backfield. And you know what? It might pay off in spades for you if you get that right. It could be in the New Orleans wide receiver, the passing game. Could be in the passing game for Denver as well. But I'm just having trouble seeing anything definitive enough for me to take a hard stand on these guys.
Honestly, the biggest stand right now that I'll probably end up making is playing more Sutton in the field. I only got 16.5% of him in the flex. Barely got any in captain, under 1%. He's by far the least owned stud. I mean, I'm going to definitely be playing more Sutton than that, especially with potentially bringing Javonte down. I think among the studs, that's easily my biggest stand. Because I'm going to play a lot of Knicks. I'm going to play a lot of Rattler. Definitely playing a lot of Kamara. But when I see Javonte way up there and Sutton way down there, we're talking about like 20% collective between flex and captain. I definitely want more than that.
So do I. And Sutton has not been good to me, Matt. Somehow Sutton always, it always ends poorly when I'm heavy on Sutton. But I have no problem getting to him today. He's also not, here's the only thing. His price point is egregious.
I would agree with you if we didn't have 18 guys below 4K that are going to play 85% of the snaps.
It's the only reason he's that expensive. Like if this were a Broncos and Eagles game.
Or even just the Saints at full strength.
Good point. Broncos and Saints at full strength. Cortland Sutton's like $8,500 in the flex. If that.
Yeah, man, I get the price point because of the slate dynamics. He is too expensive in a vacuum, and you still, despite the value, can only play like 3-4 of these guys max. So when you kind of look at, okay, there's Javonte who's still getting a good workload, even though he's been bad. We haven't seen him get reduced yet, so he's going to project very well. Kamara's on the slate. He has the best workload in the NFL outside of maybe Saquon. Then you have both quarterbacks, so he's not the highest in that pecking order, so I get why he's under-owned. But with holes in just about every stud at the top of this slate, I don't see why you wouldn't want a little more Sutton and try to smooth that out.
Anything else for Denver? Tight ends. Lucas Krull.
He's reasonably involved. I think you can play Lucas Krull.
I do too, actually.
I don't think he's dynamic, but he's out there for a lot of snaps, 30 routes in the last game. Decent blocker. I mean, he doesn't do anything well, but he's not a huge liability anywhere else. He's like a really vanilla, like Dallas Goedert.
Also, Adam Troutman's just been invisible. Troutman's been invisible. Like they're not throwing to him. They're not even throwing to Greg Dulcich either. Outside of one game for Dulcich, he's done nothing. And even
he's not even active.
I know. Isn't that amazing? Like this guy has 8 targets in week 2, plays sparingly in weeks 3 and 4, and then they just don't use him in 5 and 6. He's not even on the field.
I mean, I never understood why anyone liked Dulcich. He's been a shitty receiving tight end his whole career. He was overdrafted. He was terrible at UCLA. Honestly, I think this is a good decision from Payton. That guy stinks. He's never done anything good, ever. Even in the preseason when he was healthy. Like, why did people latch on to Dulcich?
I don't know. I think it was because people get excited that he was on a team that didn't have any real legitimate pass catcher. Well, outside of Sutton, I guess if you want to include Judy. Oh, you know what it was? Coming into that season, the Denver Broncos were, if you looked at the odds, to be the highest scoring team. You know how sportsbooks put that out there, like highest and lowest scoring teams? The Broncos were 8th and 9th at every book because the Russell Wilson experience was supposed to, the rising tide lifts all boats. And it didn't, because the tide went out and it went out and it went out until there was nothing but sand and broken shells on the bottom of the ocean floor, Matt. And it was a fucking disaster. And Dulcich was along for the ride, but he has not been good. I don't really think you need to play any tight ends. If you want to play Kroll, fine. But to your point about why Sutton's worth paying up for, I don't think you need to get super weird paying all the way down with the tight ends for Denver. They're not being used.
They're not being used, but if they, like when you're running the Sims, you're going to get a spread of the value guys because there's so many down here. And with like Kroll, I wouldn't be alarmed if he's in your lineup. I mean, he plays a lot of snaps. He's easily their receiving tight end. Out of his 34 snaps, he only blocked on 4 of them in the last game. So yeah, he's not super involved in the receiving game, but in a receiving game with so much uncertainty at 1K, if he's the guy that fits into your lineup, let's say it's chalky everywhere else, so maybe you don't want to get a chalky value play and Kroll ends up in your lineup, I don't hate it at all. He's going to be the most involved tight end for this team, albeit pretty uninvolved.
Yeah, not good. All right. Let's go. Oh, by the way, shout out to, you'll like this one, Matt. Jordan just sent this over to me from Philip. Just wanted to say thank you guys for all the info you bring us every day and the tools. Got the free core package for signing up at Bet365 and had my best ROI day ever at DFS. I mean, is that not just exactly what we want to see?
Yeah, all these deals are supposed to be like an access point to coming and trying the tools, and hopefully you like them. You and I both think you will. We've both had tons of success with them. It's just a win-win for you. Ideally, you want to play at these sports books. You can use a lot of our tools for them. And then you're already playing DFS. You can use these tools to help you there. They're all just meant to help you in the long run.
Damn right, man. By the way, if you want to get access to these tools, this is what Philip's talking about. Check that link out. Check that link out in the description. Get Stokastic Sims free, right? Join any sportsbook, get Stokastic Sims for free. So click that link. Jordan can throw it in the chat as well. You will be presented with a bunch of different sportsbooks and pick'em sites for those of you who are not in legal betting sites. When you see claim now next to any of those books, click it, deposit the minimum deposit, and place a bet. Once that bet is settled, send us a screenshot. Support is super easy process. Send us a screenshot at support@stokastic.com with your welcome email and with your settled bet email or screenshot. And you've got the entire month of Sims Core, $99 value, 100% free. That is the lineup generator. Look, here's what's going to happen. You're going to build better lineups. Okay. And not only that, like Philip did it at Bet365. That means he also got $200 in bonus bets at Bet365. He's also going to get $10 in bonus bets for every touchdown scored tonight on Thursday Night Football, right? BetMGM, Caesars have huge first bet safety net for sign-up offers. FanDuel, if you're somehow not there yet, bet 5, get 200. So you're double dipping into this. You're getting all of the sign-up offers. You got to use the links on the claim now offer on the screen. Otherwise, it doesn't work. We can't get you the free month. But you get all of those, and you get the free month of Core Sims for whatever sports you want. Can I tell you the special part about this, though, Matt, before we move on?
Tell me.
You can stack them. So if you said, I'm not on Bet365 or Caesars or BetMGM yet, I'm going to sign up on all three. I'm going to deposit. I'm going to place a bet. You now have 3 months of any corp. You could do a month of NBA, a month of NFL. You could do 3 straight months of NFL. You can stack as many as you want if you haven't done so yet. Tell me that's not incredible.
No, that's awesome. We play multiple sports, multiple months. You want to use these as long as possible. The longer you extend your time horizon, the better this is going to be with you, reducing variance.
So if you're not there, it's the best promo we've got going on right now. Yeah, and Jordan's got it on the screen right now. We like to shout out the wins every opportunity we get. We've had some monster winners recently. I mean, just some monster winners. 25K to make it rain. Just the other day, we had a 50K. I don't know if you have that one, Jordan, but we had a big 50K win on the Sunday slate as well. They're rolling in. They're using the sims. They're using the single lineup simulator, ownership projections, boom bust, all of that good stuff. But I appreciate you. Cornelius, you guys have the best promos. Appreciate it. Look, we want you guys to use the tools. We think you're going to love them and we think you're going to win with them. So why not? Why would we not want to get you using these tools? That's the play. That's what we want. We want you to use them because when people use them, they love them and they win. All right.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Use that link and make sure you click that claim offer. You're in. Just follow the simple steps at the top of the page. Hit us up and then make sure to join the Discord. Say hello. All right. We've had one guy asking us about Tipton for the past 47 minutes. Brother, we're going to get there. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to discuss. We can do that now. Right after we talk about Alvin Kamara. He was a disappointment the other Monday before their bye week against Kansas City. And that kind of is the problem, right? When you have a good defense like Kansas City with Steve Spagnuolo, a great DC in Vance Joseph, what do you think the effort is to just take Kamara out of this game? You still have to play him, but like, what do you think their focus is going to be on a guy like Alvin Kamara, who's really their only legitimate playmaker right now?
Yeah, you just have to know with this edition of the Saints, he's going to have games like this. They're playing with guys off the street on the offensive line. They're playing without their top 2 receivers. They're playing without their quarterback. They're playing without Taysom Hill. It just is what it is. They have one good player on offense right now. So you can dedicate extra resources to Kamara. The thing is, his floor is still so high. Yeah, you're probably not getting like the 47-point game in week 2 anytime soon. But even in games where he's just having all the resources dedicated to him, he had 17.5 points in the last game. And that was with a fumble. So, I mean, this could have been even better for him. You just don't have this kind of safety with any other player on the entire slate, including the quarterbacks. It's nearly impossible to get away from him with the touches he's seeing, even if they're going to be less than efficient.
And another thing, too, is last week he played 74% of snaps. Jordan Mims played 23% of snaps. How much of those Mims snaps were garbage time? Because Jamal Williams only played 3 total snaps. Kamara played 89% of snaps against the Kansas City Chiefs, 82 prior to that, 86 against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's also like this could be a 90% snap game again from Alvin Kamara. Probably will be.
When they're competitive, I anticipate they will be 90% of the snaps. Jamal Williams, I'm not sure why he's on the roster at this point. He just seems to have lost a step. Jordan Mims should not be getting snaps in any game. He is a UDFA practice squad XFL type back.
If this game plays close to the spread, I don't, and anything can happen, but I don't know how Kamara is not just out there all game.
He should be. I 100% agree, believe that's the case.
David said, I just didn't know if you were going to see it, so I kept repeating it. The Tipton, we go team by team here, and then we move around on Live Before Lock on Thursday night and Monday night. We go team by team. And there's certain spots, if you guys watched this show before, that we just really have to hit hard and dig into. Otherwise, we're not helping anybody. Do we really need to spend a lot of time on Kamara here?
I don't think so. If you want to be crazy and use him as your leverage point and not play him, I think that's okay in the largest of fields. But if you're playing anything small, I think your decision just needs to be how much captain are you willing to play and then whatever's left over in the flex.
So the better question I have for you then is if you're not going Kamara captain, who are the priority captain spots?
Oh, it has to be the QBs or
right?
Sutton, which is the lower priority for me. But Yeah, man. I mean, it's a low scoring slate, and Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler definitely aren't inspiring confidence, but it becomes a question of who else are you going to? You could maybe get like this would be Millie Maker stuff. Like you could play Bub Means, maybe you could play like Javante, I suppose. I don't love him in the captain, but you're naturally going to get some if you run 150 or something. Or you could get crazy and play like a McLaughlin or something. But other than that, like low risk contests, I'm not feeling good about anyone not named Kamara, Nix, or Rattler. Everyone else, the receivers, the running backs, for me, mostly is a larger field play.
This might even be a kicker day, the cap or a defense day.
I didn't get a lot of them. I got a few defenses, no kickers in the captain, but maybe it's just because you have so much value.
You're right. You're right. And that is why I was surprised a little bit too. I have about 3% Broncos at captain, 2% Saints. I don't hate it. You know, I don't hate that. I'm not changing anything there. This offense for the Saints could just not score any points.
Yeah, DraftKings is onto this.
At the pricing?
Like, yeah, Saints are 52.
Yeah.
I mean, on Monday night, we had a 3,600 defense. So this is like significantly more expensive than that slate.
For sure. Kickers in flex. How many kickers in flex am I getting? See, I'm getting less than I thought. Groupie and Lutz, I have 12% each. Just so crazy seeing how this game could go. You're right. It's because of the dirt cheap value for sure. But man, isn't that crazy? It's like the kickers usually profile. It seems weird, but they usually profile better and actually perform better in high total games.
So I went I agree with you. And I went and I looked and just who was my most exposed cheap guy. It was actually Tipton at 30%. This is an unrestricted run with no boosts or anything like this. But I think that kind of speaks to it. On other slates, we've had a ton of value play. Like I've had slates where it's been up to like 50, 60% of a kicker. But Tipton being the most owned so far, I mean, Bub Memes wasn't far behind. He's at about 25. Then you get the complete sprays of Lil Jordan Humphrey, the kickers, Cedric Wilson. And all these guys are between like 8 to 12, 15-ish percent. So I think it very much just is that. We have a ton of options. You don't need to really overexpose yourself to any one of these guys, especially at a volatile position like a kicker or a defense.
Some comments in chat about Kendre Miller. Yeah.
If they let him play, man, I will be playing him.
I don't think Dennis Allen likes him.
He had him as a healthy scratch last game. Like there's a really good chance he's inactive.
They really don't love him. I don't know.
I think it's a work ethic thing, man.
Dennis Allen has said, like, he came out and was like, look, the guy can't stay healthy. And it wasn't like man, we feel bad for him. It was like, I don't know what to tell you. He's never on the field because he can never be healthy.
Yeah. I think some of that's work ethic. Like you need to take care of your body. And if you do, you don't get hurt. So that might be it. You know, like if a guy's not in the training room or doing the extra stuff and he gets hurt, it's kind of on you, man. I don't know that that's the case, but when someone gets thrown under the bus for being hurt like that, you can kind of read between the lines a little bit.
Would you be playing him today if he's active?
Oh yeah. Why not? Okay. If they gave Jordan Mims double-digit snaps.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think those Mims snaps were just purely blowout snaps.
I agree with you. I think they were too, but Mims is also a UDFA like practice squad guy who's going to be in the UFL playing for the Pittsburgh Maulers next year. Kendre Miller's the guy that was drafted highly, and they've had some changes on their coaching staff, but wouldn't you like to get a look at Kendre Miller? This could, I don't know, man. The Saints are in kind of a different place than Denver, I think. After their week 1 and 2 run out, the Saints still might be clinging to life that there's a chance for them to make the playoffs and do something. I don't see it, but you never know with these coaching staffs. So perhaps they're not in full evaluation mode yet, and they do give Kamara 95% of the snaps. But the other thing is, like, you have to know as a coach, giving Kamara like 26 touches a game, he's going to get hurt. So I don't know. This is a really tough situation. If Kendre's active, I'll definitely throw a couple darts. But like everything else at the value spots, you don't need to play a lot of him.
By the way, I'm just looking at this now. The final drive of the game for the Saints when they were down 51-27, Because Mims had 4 targets in that game. 3 of his targets were on that drive. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was a 9-play drive, and he played, how many snaps did he play? 16 in that game.
Yeah.
And then so let's see. So the drive before that, Kamara was out there, but the final drive that was a 9 or 10 play drive was all Jordan Mims. And it looks like basically all of his work came in that final drive. Just throwing it out there. So I didn't want to be mistaken, and it turns out that he was actually involved all game.
No, they make sense. He's not a good player. He shouldn't be on the active roster.
Okay, so how about this? Would you rather have Estime or would you rather have Kendre Miller?
Estime, for sure. Estime has a chance to be like maybe a 10 carry guy or something tonight.
Yep. Yeah, me
Peyton
too.
singled him out in his press conference.
I know. And there is no Alvin Kamara in front of him. There's Javonte Williams. So
yes.
So no Rashid, no Chris Olave. Wilson, Bub Means, Mason. They're the only even healthy guys on the depth chart right now. So you and I talked about it before the show. We assume they elevate somebody from the practice squad. You have what? Who do we have? Kevin Austin Jr., Jermaine Jackson, Dante Pettis. They just signed to the practice squad, and Equinemius St. Brown. They got to bring somebody up, right?
Almost have to.
Yeah.
You can't have 3 active receivers on game day. I would anticipate at least 1.
I don't imagine. Are they in the player pool?
Pettis is.
St. Brown is.
Yeah.
Jackson is. I guess
they all are, I think.
Okay. All right. So we'll see. But it's Bub Means, Tipton, and Cedric Wilson for now. Do you have any real feel? Tipton's probably the guy, right?
He played the least out of the 3 last week when all the injuries occurred.
Which is weird because Derek Carr was actually looking his way quite a bit against Kansas City.
Yeah, it seems to me that they're probably just using Means and Wilson as boundary receivers, and they're more comfortable playing with those guys in the weird formations they run. And that's what it comes down to for me with anything else is New Orleans not going to be an 11 personnel. They're going to play 12 a ton. They use Prentice at fullback. They have a terrible offensive line because of injuries. So they basically need an extra guy in to block every single play so they don't get their quarterback killed. Even when they did that, they still got their quarterback killed, but now you have a rookie out there. So, I mean, you're just dealing with such low rates of 11 personnel. I don't know what the ceiling is for a guy like Tipton who really only plays in 11 personnel sets. But then again, like, what is he competing with on this slate? Is like a 50% role with Spencer Rattler worthy of consideration? I think it still is. But ultimately, Wilson and Means profile as the guys that are going to be on the field more, just based on what we saw last time out. But again, I don't feel strongly about that.
I really wanted to get to Juwan Johnson before I looked at pricing, but that salary is wild.
Yeah, you could still use him though. I guess there's no real hindrance outside of alternatives at the position.
For sure. I'm saying I just thought I'd have a lot more than I do right now. And then I saw the price point and I said, oh, that makes sense. $6,800 for Juwan Johnson is that I would be 100% good with that. And I'd have a ton of him if Derek Carr was quarterback, but it's not just that they're missing, Shaheed and Olave and you have Carr. It's, they don't have anybody, but they also have Spencer Rattler at quarterback against a good defense. So I'd rather, I think, just take more shots on the cheaper guys because Juwan Johnson still only had 3 targets last game.
They don't throw a lot. They throw at one of the lowest rates in the NFL. So I completely get that he's definitely not a priority. It's, to me, the cheap guys mainly, because then you have Kamara, you have the QBs. Those are the safest guys at the top. Sutton, if you want to include him, is kind of a slightly lower tier there. So, I mean, the whole slate comes down to deciphering these cheap guys and who you think plays more really between Tipton and Wilson. Because I think Bob Means is probably a little secure based on his last game and he performed well. There's no real reason to reduce him. It's like when they're in 12 personnel, when they're using a fullback, who is the second receiver on the field? Is it Tipton or is it Cedric Wilson? I don't have a great feel for that right now. And I think honestly, they might split it between the two of them.
You're probably accurate on that.
I just haven't, I don't know, man. Tipton has played more throughout the year, but then Wilson played more than Tipton in the last game. 36 snaps to 29. So it's pretty thin still, but.
And even a guy like Foster Moreau at $2,800 on any other slate, he probably looks pretty good. But with so much value on this slate, I'm looking at some of the value that I'm getting to, right? And that's going to be, I do have some little Jordan Humphrey, Mason Tipton, Cedric Wilson. I have 12.7% Marvin Mims right now. I'm gonna try and get more Audric Estime. Vele's 4,400. I don't have a ton of him, but my point being that 2,800 on Foster Moreau would have looked pretty good. It just doesn't look good on this slate specifically because there's so much value.
Yeah, he's blocking on over 50% of his snaps. They have such bad offensive line problems. That's what they're doing with Prentice and Moreau and these guys. Like, their receiving tight end is Juwan Johnson. Guy can't block at all. So you bring out the extra tight end to fill in for your offensive line, provide some support. I don't know, man. That's Moreau's job. He did run 15 routes, so could he always luck his way into something? Sure. But with alternatives, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Is there anyone else we want to talk about for the Saints that we have? Because I don't think Jamal Williams is viable right now.
Well, I'm not sure we can talk about anyone else because we don't know who they're bringing up.
I know.
You have a guess at who they call up? I do not.
I'm going to say ESB.
I think ESB is the number one guy, and then I would say Kevin Austin would be the second.
They just signed Dante Pettis, so.
Yeah, he's a warm body.
Yeah.
A lukewarm body.
I was going to say, yeah, room temperature. All right. As it stands right now, this is me just totally factory settings, unadulterated Sims run. 50% Kamara captain, 24% Bo Nix captain. And I don't even hate it.
I agree with you. The only things I think I'm going to change to captain is I think I want a little more Rattler and a little more Sutton, just based on their ceilings.
I get that. I also want to get a little bit less Javonte at captain.
Me too.
And maybe a little more Jaleel McLaughlin. I may even see if I can jam a tiny bit of Audric Estime in at captain. Give me 2-3% Audric Estime. That could be fun.
Yeah, and it's not even a price thing with Estime. It's the fact that you think you might take over the backfield.
Oh, it has nothing to do with salary. I mean, if I play Estime at captain, I'm probably leaving 25,000 on the table.
Yeah, that's true. You're going to leave a ridiculous amount on the table. But I agree with you. I think Kamara is the safest. This might be just a risk management strategy, but 52% of him, when we've seen teams hold him to 17 points, he had around 12 points the week before. At his salary, that could be something that is somewhat detrimental. Again, it's a really low scoring game. So even a 17-point Kamara still might be the optimal captain, which is insane to say. But with the downside, I would like to get to some Bo Nix. Bo Nix is running like crazy. He's the guy I think that threatens Kamara most for this optimal captain because he has really good rushing ability. He's actually taking a lot of rushing scores at the expense of Javonte. Javonte doesn't have a rushing touchdown yet this year, which is pretty crazy. And then otherwise, I think Sutton has the chance just based on his receiving target share right now. And Rattler, man, he's the quarterback. He touches the ball every play. He runs sort of like a Baker Mayfield, which is, I think I'm more athletic than I actually am, but it gives you a reasonable floor on the ground. And we saw that in their first game. Tough matchup for Rattler. Obviously, the cast around him is maybe worse than anything we've seen a rookie come around with in recent memory. Even the Zach Wilson teams, what Drake May is playing with, what the Saints have on the field in this game, I think is worse than anything I can remember.
It's so bad. By the way, Josh Ingeman just popped in the chat with a hand holding a watch, which made me question what was going on. Then I remembered that they had an NBA show today. I did not know It was scheduled for 11 o'clock. Usually you and I kind of have free reign to go long on this show, which we almost always do. Because, you know, we typically have 800 people watching with us in the morning. But no, we've scheduled an 11 o'clock show. I highly suggest you guys watch that. I'm going to watch it to get me ready. But you guys are assholes for scheduling it right up against us at 11 o'clock. That's all I'm saying.
Isn't it preseason? Like, don't we have something better to do? Real sports.
Stop it, man. No, everybody should go watch that show. Everyone should go watch that show. It just should have been at like, 12. That's all I'm saying. All right, so we have a couple minutes. We don't, but we're doing this anyway. We're building a lineup in the single lineup sim because this is a disgusting slate. And Jordan, are you producing that show? Okay, and also a fair statement.
A week from now.
Also a fair statement. All right, you know what? You wiggled your way out of that one, and I give you credit, sir. All right, let's do it, Matt. Let's talk Bill up here. I was ready to just eviscerate it, and I was like, yeah, he's got a point. All right.
Half the guys in the NBA are going to get ruled out before lock anyway. Who cares?
All right, let's go. Let's go. Captain. Do we just want to go Kamara at captain here?
It's either Kamara and Knicks. Let's go Kamara. We have no reason not to.
Okay. Okay. And by the way, you guys can play around with this tool as much as you want. You'll be on it for, that's the thing. This is a time drainer, but in the best of ways. You're just going to be sucked into this tool. That link in the description too. Sign up at any of those books. Sign up at any of those pick'em sites. Follow the steps, and you've got it for tonight. Go place like a live ping pong Russia bet so you can settle that bet and get the tools by within the next hour. In all seriousness, it's not. Go ask Ben what he has for soccer today. You'll have the tools by tonight, I promise you. All right. Kamara captain. I'm going to throw McLaughlin in here, Matt.
All right. I'm going to follow it up with Knicks.
The only reason I'm not throwing Audric Estime is because I'm going to have to do some manual adjustments on the projections to get this to sim well with him to begin with. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Knicks. Okay. Give me. I want to get a little weird somewhere, but I don't know. Give me Tipton.
Okay. So you freed up a lot of salary. I feel like I can just go play Sutton now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to throw Sutton in there.
Definitely. That gives us 4,700.
We have so many options.
And in a perfect world, I'm playing Estime here, and I'm just getting super weird. But what do you think the answer is?
We already have Knicks. I would probably tack on another Denver receiver.
God, we can't all the way. Both of the kickers are out of range.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, you're right. Let's go. I'll go a little Jordan Humphrey here.
All right.
Although I like, again, I'll make some, I think I'm going to try and smooth it out to where like Humphrey's not projecting for much more than Troy Franklin or those, or Vele.
I have no problem with any of the three. You're gambling on a very uncertain situation. I would play the ownership game here, especially with our lineup. Take the leverage.
-6%. Well, we got to go. Normally we would spend time and try and get a good positive one, but I think we've unturned every stone possible for this slate, dude.
Watch live before lock. You will know who the Saints bring up. That could matter. I'm not sure it will, but there is good information coming later today. So very, very important live before lock.
Yeah, man. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Hopefully it was helpful. As always, we very much appreciate you hanging out. Go into the main channel for Stokastic. Tune into the NBA First Look with Greg and Josh. It'll help you a lot getting prepped for the week. It'll be here before you know it. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski. I'm at Lafayette_D. Hopefully we see you over there in the Discord. Make sure to say hi, and we'll see you back here tonight for Live Before Lock. Peace.